different studio, but it doesn't show any problem. So yeah, seems good.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Hey, fast internet in Thailand. Awesome.
Yeah, I know. Strange, right?
Right. Who would have thought that internet in Thailand is better than in Europe?
Yeah, and much better than Australia. US was pretty fast. Yeah, Australia has incredibly slow internet. I don't know why.
Really? Okay. I don't. Oh well. I was about to say I haven't experienced any bad internet connection in Australia, but I never really use it for work. So I only use it to make people jealous on IG. So I never really worked with it. So yeah. So Thailand, nice. Thailand 4.0. I'm telling you, it's coming.
Yeah. Hopefully.
So
finally.
Before we start, and maybe I leave it in, maybe I cut it out just as an FYI. We had like this Facebook Live yesterday with my faculty, where like the teachers discussed current issues. We talked about Afghanistan and media literacy and whatnot. And some of our students watched it, or former students watched it, and they complained that it wasn't spicy enough. So with this in mind, I'm trying to make this interview now more spicy. I hope that it works.
What will happen in this podcast will shock you.
Exactly.
It will shock your children too.
and crazy thumbnail of you screaming or something. That's the plan.
We can both scream, and then that'll be the thumbnail.
Exactly. Maybe that's spicy enough for this generation now. Okay. Hey, before I ask you questions and stuff, like how was the trip? I mean, the flight and everything.
Flight was good, and yeah, it's kind of strange to hear people speaking Thai to me again after 3 months of being away from Thailand.
Okay, but I mean, it's like 3 months isn't like long enough to lose it, right? So I mean, it's not like you're confused now. Yeah, okay. What's been the coolest destination where you stayed the past 3 months?
Definitely the latest place I stayed at in Turkey, which was in Selçuk. It's like a small countryside town, and we stayed at this farm that has a gorgeous view of the mountain, and it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. And the owner, he owns like 4 hectares of farm in that area around the house, and he has walnuts and figs and olives, and he makes his own cheese, and he kept bringing us all the stuff every day, like the most delicious figs I've ever seen. Although I'm scared of figs since I watched a documentary about how they are always pollinated by a tiny wasp. So there's always a dead wasp inside a fig, but most of the time it disintegrates, like the fig absorbs it as nutrients. So the little wasps go up the butthole of the fig. There's a little hole. And then it goes inside the figs and lay eggs, and then the little new bugs flies out of the figs, but then the mom dies in the fig. But most of the time the figs get eaten, the wasps get eaten by the figs, so you don't see the insect anymore, but sometimes you do.
I'm not sure if I'm fascinated or disgusted. I'm not quite sure. But hey, anyways, welcome to Biology 101. We're starting a biology podcast now. I like this. Like it goes into the butt of the fig.
Go find it on YouTube. Then from then on, every time you eat a fig, you check it first to see if there's a wasp.
Speaking totally off the rails already, but speaking of how things are made and how I know funny biology stuff. You know how vanilla used to be made, right?
No, I do not.
Apparently that comes out of, since we talk about buttholes, apparently that came out of buttholes of beavers, like some. And then you would, I don't know the process anymore because I had to stop the video when I heard something. I don't want to hear this.
No more vanilla for you.
Exactly. I don't eat anything vanilla anymore. No? So yeah, okay. If we ever run out of ideas, we're gonna do this biology podcast. Obviously,
you can do like the weirdest thing that you've ever heard that you actually eat or do every day or use every day. To gross people out from doing anything.
Yeah, you're not going to do anything anymore. You're not going. It's terrible. Yeah. When I when I researched like how long is my foot gonna stay swollen after I stepped on the sea urchin, the results I saw, like things that can happen after you step on a sea urchin. What can happen with your food? What can happen inside your food? I don't want to see those things. So I did not read any further. I'm just hoping right now. So, nature is disgusting.
Yep.
But you're still in the nature. When are you gonna actually come back to the City of Angels, or
Yeah,
are you gonna?
so after 2 weeks, because I have to stay in the sandbox for 2 weeks, and then back to Bangkok, and I can finally see my tiny dog, which I
Aw.
miss the most.
Hey, last time you said you miss your gaming PC the most. Don't lie here.
yeah. Both of them. Although my boyfriend Mark, he impulse buy a PS5 at the airport, so we've been gaming last night.
Fair enough. Which games you playing?
Mortal Kombat and Control.
Nice. Okay. That's cool. I understand it. That's cool. How's the latest Mortal Kombat? Is it like?
Oh, the graphics so good.
Yeah.
Like it's too realistic because in Mortal Kombat you see the X-ray vision when the character gets killed.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, finish him and then you have like this.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy. Okay, important questions. So, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter? What's better?
I don't think I've played Street Fighter.
Okay, now you're losing coolness.
Maybe I
Cut,
did.
you're out. Next guest coming in. You never used the Hadouken move. Oh my god. Huh,
Because
okay.
I think I've never actually owned a console, and then I played at friends' places, and they had Mortal Kombat.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, last nerd question, then we move on to the actual topics.
Okay.
You're gonna watch the Mortal Kombat movie. Did you watch the Mortal Kombat movie?
I have not.
Okay, no problem. Neither, because it looked terrible.
Do I still qualify for this podcast?
Yeah, I also didn't watch it because I feel I'm too old now for this. So that's just yeah. Okay, let's move on from feeling old to feeling energetic and enthusiastic. Hopefully, let's see how this goes. So when I prepared, because that's of course what I do for this podcast, I thought about like asking you several thousand questions, and then I, of course, that's what I do, right? Stalking your IG. I mean, that's not what I do. It's what I do to prepare for podcast. That sounded weird. So when I prepare for podcast, I stalk, I check out, I research social media of my guests. There you go. And I saw like thank you. And headline tomorrow: University prof stalks girls on Instagram. I saw they posted you about like the song that kind of brought you back into music. I found this rather interesting. How exactly, like, because I mean we've known each other for like a while now, for a long time, from back when we were younger, and we met because I found your music back then, and then you didn't do music for a long time, and now you're going back into music, and now that post that said like, hey, what's your song that made you change your life or something? So I'm just curious if there's like, can you explain a bit more like how this song made you go back into it?
Yeah, it was actually two different things, and you didn't stalk me enough because if you did, you would know.
No, I read it, but I want to hear it from
it's
you.
a good sign, I guess, that you're not a stalker. So the two things that got me back into doing music, one was the song that I recently released a cover called Daydreamer by Aurora. And the other was an interview by Jordan Peterson, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I think at that point when I listened to that song, I hadn't really done anything artistically creative for about 6 years, because I used to do a lot of things like music, drawing, painting, and acting. I was in musical theater when we met, I think. Yeah, and played in a rock band. So at that point, I was kind of focusing on a traditional kind of climbing the corporate ladder type of career path that, okay, I have to be well known in the industry, I have to win clients and all that. And then I listened to this song which talks about how I suppose I interpret it as a lot of people gives up their dreams of what they truly love to do, which is bigger than themselves, to as the lyrics of the song says, you become small talkers, street walkers, and not dreamers anymore. And it kind of hit home for me that, oh, I actually stopped doing things I really love for this different career path, a different focus in life. So that's what got me back. And also the melody of the song and the singer's voice, which it sounds like childhood innocence. Like her voice has that kind of young childhood quality to it. So everything, the whole experience of the song really hurts me hard. That, it really hits the point. So that's one of the things that brought me back to music. And the other thing I mentioned was an interview that Jordan Peterson, who was actually my university professor, by the way. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, I took 3 courses with him.
Awesome. Okay.
In
were you triggered?
U of Toronto, Canada. Yeah. So I watched his interview with I think an art director, a director of a museum in Canada. As I'm talking, these keep falling off. Okay. So in the interview, he was talking about people who are creative in the Big 5 personality theory, because there's a dimension for people who are like more open to artistic, creative ideas. And he was saying, if you are high on the creative trait, you'd better be creating, otherwise you're going to die. Like he literally said that you're going to die. And I was like, oh, that's true. Because I think at that point I wasn't doing well in the mental health department either. And I suppose if you're creative, you're more, you have more repressed things that you need to get out of you than a lot of other people. So there were like more things that I buried and didn't express properly, I suppose. And doing music again, like since I started making music again, I haven't felt depressed or anxious since. So it definitely worked.
Okay, awesome. That's cool. I see. I still learn, after years of knowing you, I still learn new things about you. You took classes with Jordan Peterson. That's cool. I need to get you on our media podcast then, because I mean, I listen a lot to Jordan Peterson because of his takes on political correctness, wokeness, and all those things. So cool. But also when you read Jordan Peterson books, right? What I found for myself is 2 things. A, I read it and I think, that's not rocket science. So I shouldn't need an academic to tell me this. But then B, I realize I never think about it myself. So he's right. Like, it's important that he mentions those things because they are so obvious, yet you never think about it yourself. Like, if you're creative, you got to create. It's like, yeah, right. Well, why don't I think about this myself? So it's good that like there are people like him out there. That's cool.
And what I like about his books, the 2 recent ones, the 12 Rules of Life and the Beyond Order. Yeah, he has a lot of really good stories because he's an amazing storyteller. So what people tend to remember, including myself, is the stories, because the message is common sense, right? But then stories is what make people remember. And when I'm in a certain situation, I recall the stories that he tells, and then I remember the lessons. So it's not just like telling someone, hey, you should be doing this. This is the good common sense. People don't remember that, but the story helps.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's why I listen to his podcast. Not always, but frequently. Sometimes, to be honest, those podcasts are a little bit too on the nose for me, like realizing, oh, damn, I need to change my whole life. I don't want to hear this now. Don't tell me that. But yeah, no, it's like awesome inspiration, and yeah, the stories are great. Also, like I was really intrigued. I never tried. I was intrigued by his diet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what he did with the diet.
Yeah.
Like he
I don't think I want to try that diet because I think it's definitely, well, I mean, if you don't have a health problems like him and his daughter does, then it's not really necessary or doesn't sound very pleasant to try.
Exactly, yeah. But it's just impressive that they pull it off, and then like so religiously sticking to it. I think that's, and if it shows the benefits, then I mean all power to them. So it's really just very interesting to me to see how people can like change their lives, willpower basically. Very very motivational podcast already here. Willpower, changing your life, and so on. Okay, but let's go away from Jordan Peterson and talk about you. So then you realize you don't want to die, and you want to create again after years away from creativity. So then, what's your first step? Because I assume thinking I want to create is one thing. Like I mean, most people could relate. Like thinking I want to do something is easy, but then like how do you start again? What was your process until you then released your single?
I think for me it's a bit different, and I talk about this in another interview, which I guess you haven't stopped. So to summarize, I found a new way of writing music that's more true to my personality, I suppose, because I imagine music has to be very emotional. Like it's you pouring out your heart, your sadness, your breakup, your love for someone and things like that. And I think I would say that I am more logical than emotional. And I try to write emotional music and it just feels wrong for me. It feels like it's not real. Like it's I have to be more than I actually feel or write in a sadder way than I actually feel, and things like that. So when I realized I want to make music again, I had this idea that I want music to be thought provoking instead of emotionally provoking, I suppose, because I question a lot of things. I read a lot of philosophy, and I want to have my audience or listener question how they're living their lives and whether that's meaningful to them through my music as well. Because I also have this theory that music can bypass your ego or your conscience directly into your subconscious, or if you study psychology, then unconscious or shadow side that's it's more like raw emotions and things you repress and not the persona that you put outside. So with music if music can get through to that level of your subconscious, and the message, like the lyrics, is something that make you think, then maybe I can help people think about living meaningfully in a deeper level than if someone were to lecture them like, hey, you should be doing this. So how did I go about creating? Back to your question, is that I would first think of the message or the question that I want my listeners to think about. So each of the song has like its center questions or idea. Like the first song, To Win, Will You Give Up? It's, well, literally the title. Like to win, to get to the top. Like I was kind of inspired by how I was focusing on the corporate ladder climbing, I suppose. Like if you were to get to the top, whether you are a ruthless CEO or a narcissistic dictator or politician, like are you willing to give up your humanity or your ethics? And my second song that's coming out later this month is called Come On Little Human. And it's basically question how important is your ability to think critically? And if it's so important, then why is society teaching kids not to think critically? or not doing it enough, and be more obedient, compliant, be pleasant, and not disagree and ask important questions. Yeah, so the idea comes first, like the concept or the questions I want people to think about. Then the music that surrounds the lyrics as well as the music video is like the soundtrack and the movie to help communicate those ideas better.
Okay, I'm processing. That makes sense to me how you explain it. Also, yes, I mean, the first music video, I mean, all the examples you gave, they are basically in the video, right? Like the climbing the corporate ladder and sacrificing and so on. Before I ask like more, I hope, deeper questions about the musical process, how much fun was it to shoot that video and just be crazy and kill people and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was really fun, although really exhausting because we filmed 12 hours straight, 2 days of 12 hours straight of shooting. And I was in every single scene, so that was really exhausting. But it's also fun to run around with sword and chasing all of my friends.
Yeah, that looked really cool. Okay, since now that's out of the way, did you keep the sword?
Yeah, of course. I bought it for the music, for the video, and also I thought that like I always wanted one. So it's now on display at my place in Bangkok.
First, you open the door, first thing you see a sword and you're like, I'm not coming in. All right, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I always thought, because we kind of have a weird neighbor. So I fantasize opening the door when the neighbor flips out with a sword and be like, hi, how are you?
Nice, cool, with a creepy smile. Nice, that's cool. Okay, fair enough. All right, back. I just was curious. Okay, so back to the musical questions, though. So I am also in psychology, and I teach some marketing psychology and stuff. So I understand what you're saying in regards to bypass the consciousness, because like, I mean, social media does this also in several ways with like colors and sounds and whatnot. So makes sense that music can do this too. Obviously, I have a question in this regard, though, because you say you try to have more like logical lyrics, like that challenge you, right? Like rather than emotional. But then if you then write the music, doesn't the music be more emotional, like in regard to relate or to make the audience relate to it? You know what I mean? Like if I as an audience start thinking first, I might not accept your message. But if I'm like, that sounds cool, or is it completely different, or is it completely wrong of me to think that?
No,
like,
I think definitely. But although I would clarify that I meant not my own emotions in a personal life sense. That's what I meant. Like I don't really want to be writing about emotions relating to my personal relationships and all that. But of course, music, like it's impactful that it makes you feel certain emotions, and I think there are ways to do it. Like you mentioned colors in social media, the color psychology, that certain colors make people feel a certain way. It's the same with music, where certain sound inherently make people feel a certain way. Like anyone from any culture, and there's research backing this up, if you listen to major chords, then it feels happy. If you listen to a minor chords, people can tell that it feels more sad or more depressing, I suppose. So there are ways that you can help build that emotions into that song. And through the first song that you've heard, To Win, I wanted to sound very angry and anxious, which I think there are certain elements of music, like the chords and melody and the dissonance in the how it sounds can help build that up and create that emotions for you. Because I think like soundtrack in movies does this all the time. And that's what I think of my music, like the instrumental part too, that is the soundtrack for the message that I'm saying through the lyrics.
Right. Yeah, makes sense to me as well. Yeah, okay. I understand. When I listen to that song, it doesn't have like this happy ending feeling, right? I mean, obviously, on purpose with the message that the song is sending. So is it like how did you choose that this is the first song? Because I would assume that it would maybe get like more traction, but maybe it's also the target audience, and we can talk about this too. I would assume it might get more traction if it's like a happy-go-lucky like kind of thing, and people are like, oh yeah, but I mean that's clearly not your approach, not your goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think that it's mainstream at all, and I don't expect it to be played on radio regularly because I don't know. I don't think it would be something that people listen to regularly. Weirdly enough, coming from the creator, because it's kind of a stressful song. Right? So you listen to it once, and maybe you like the chorus, that question to when will you give up? Everything, it's stuck in your ear, and like maybe when you have a shower or you're cooking later on, you're like singing along and be like, "Hey, am I giving up things that I shouldn't be giving up?" So I just expect people to listen to it once, maybe it gets stuck in their brain, and then they question if they should change themselves or things like that afterwards. But yeah, it's not but strangely enough, Spotify algorithm, it analyzes your song and how like organize it. There's I think 5 or 6 categories, and there's like danceability, there's happiness, and of course my song's super low on happiness, but it got 70-something% danceability, which is really surprising. Like, wow. So Spotify thinks that my song's danceable too.
I mean, I'm a terrible dancer, but I would not know how to dance to your song.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Maybe like some kind of tribal around the fire pit kind of dance.
Sword swinging, swing a sword around. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, like I showed you the screenshot, right? Like after I listened to you on YouTube a few times, then YouTube suggests similar artists, like Lord and Camila Cabello, or however you pronounce it. Have you had a chance to check her out? Because you said you don't know her.
Yeah, not yet. I've
it's the Havana girl, like the girl sings like Havana. So I also wonder how YouTube came up with like.
I actually know. Well, I know on Spotify, but I don't know if YouTube is the same. I assume it does. Is that it checks what people listen to after they listen to your song.
Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of analyze your listeners' behavior and see the song that they usually listen to, usually after playing your song, and then it thinks that that's similar to your song.
So they're stalking you. Yes. Okay. I think YouTube in this case, I think they might just check what the average audience listens to, like those people that listen to you. Like you're in a persona group, I assume. Because I definitely don't listen to those artists, never have actively. So that must be like kind of like, okay, you listen to her, other people who listen to her also like. So I would assume this is what YouTube does. I just found it interesting that they compared you or put you like in a pot with like those artists there. But speaking of artists to be compared to, everyone's going to ask this. I never asked you though, so I'm going to ask you now too, even though you probably answered this question a million times, like which artists do influence you? Because I never asked you that. Right.
Maybe you did before, but I like in our very first interview.
Yeah.
Definitely Aurora, the one that I recently did the cover. And who else? I really love FKA Twigs. He's a British artist that does a lot of weird music and really meaningful music video.
Okay.
I liked a lot of rock music. One of my favorite was 30 Seconds to Mars. Because I think the lyrics is always meaningful and makes you think about your life as well. That's mainly why.
Are they still around? I haven't heard from them in a while.
I don't think so. Probably. Maybe they're taking a hiatus.
Jared Leto too busy with the movies. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So influenced by rock. Me too. I had like this one rock band, like Beyond Apollo, was pretty cool back then.
Yeah, they only had 4 songs, unfortunately.
Gone too soon. I'm trying to find like a smooth segue, but because for me right now, it's difficult because we talk so much privately now. I have to think like, what did I ask you in an interview that I published back then, and what did I just ask you privately, so I don't like mix things up. But
Right.
I know that like when we talked, right, you said like the Thai market, even though we are both in Thailand, you said like the Thai market might not necessarily be like your target.
Yeah, I kind of doubt they listen to this kind of song. Even the US market, I don't think this is the type of song they listen to in the US. But I think that UK, because I was running a few ads that I talked to you about, and I targeted the UK and Russia because I think they are cynical enough to like the stuff I write. And also, a lot of people, well, not a lot, a handful of people has told me that my video, my song and my video is really dark, except for friends from the UK and Russian.
Okay.
So I assume that they would probably like it.
Okay, stereotyping here. Okay, they like dark stuff. Okay, how? What's the result so far? Like, what are you seeing so far? Do you see some traction?
One of my ads did. I don't know. I wanted to say it did well-ish, but then when I compared to the stats, like I was posting, I'm in this music marketing group on Facebook that people share knowledge and all that, and I was asking, hey, like, what's your stat for advertising? What does it look like? And I do horribly compared to them, which I don't know if it's because I'm new on the ads platform. Like I just started. I actually turned it off after a few days, maybe 3-4 days, because it looked bad. But also, I'm suspecting that because I have swear words in my song, and it got flagged as inappropriate. Yeah, there's like swear words, negative content that makes people emotionally distressed. So that's why it might be more expensive, but I'm not sure because it didn't explicitly say.
Do you need to add parental advisory in the beginning? No.
Yeah, warning. There's sword stabbing and stuff.
And negativity, it's like real life. Oh no, trigger warning. So then, but before we go back to the music question again, like platform-wise, right? So you're on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere, or like what do you just target something specifically, or?
No, because these days it's really easy to post everywhere. So you sign up for this automated distributor. It's like a website you upload your song to, and you pay really cheap fee, like $10 a year, and you can upload a limited amount of songs, and then upload your songs to everything. Okay. Yeah.
Just like podcasts, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But also, like, if you, for example, if you get a lot of streams on Spotify, then you get paid by Spotify, things like that. So it like sends you your revenue. And if someone uses your song without your permission, then it copyright claims it and all that.
Okay, nice.
So
did someone steal your song already?
No.
It's going to happen sooner or later. Don't worry. Okay. All right. So just to like recap, so you're everywhere, makes sense because you can distribute it like easily, but you like ad-wise, you targeted Russia and the UK.
I tried worldwide as well, but also I was getting a lot of traffic from suspicious countries, I suppose what you call it, like Bangladesh, Philippines. So I thought maybe that's not a good idea. Because a lot of people warn you that like there are a lot of bots on in those countries, so you can't really tell if it's real people or not.
Why would the bots target you though? But yeah, I mean they target everybody, but like okay, just interesting, like from a marketing point of view, but not don't want to ask too much about this, but it's just very interesting to see like also the results. And last question on the marketing part, no TikTok, right?
Not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Although
it's not danceable enough.
I kind of want to try with my second song because I think there's more opportunities for relevant memes. The first song is way too dark for TikTok. The second song has parts that would work for people creating meme content.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was about to say, like from what you told me about the second song, it's also not a happy-go-lucky song.
It is. But somehow, my friend and cinematographer, he said this song is way darker than the first one because it's happy-go-lucky, but it's secretly dark. So he thought it's even darker than the other one.
That's like you make the people think it's happy, but then they're like, oh, wait.
Oh, yeah.
Which is probably smart.
It sounds kind of like kids' music, right? And when I was in Turkey, we were in an Airbnb and there were other people in the common area-ish. And there was this little kid that's probably like 7 years old. She ran to my laptop when I was playing the song for my friend. And she was like dancing in the background. I was like, oh, I don't think you should watch this. But then it was like, oh, she doesn't understand any English, so it's fine.
Okay. So wait. Like, so the kids that played in the video, did they take any damage from it? Like any psychological damage from being exposed to the lyrics?
I don't know. The parents are okay with it. So I really made sure I said to the parents, like, these are the lyrics and it's kind of darkish. Are you okay with that? And all of them said yes. The kids in the first scenes, they're Russian. And I asked the mom, like, hey, do you think the song is kind of dark? She was like, no, how is it dark? And so I was like, okay, great. And the kids that were in the 1984 parody scenes, they had to wear this creepy mask, right? So I asked all of them before, like, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay with wearing this creepy mask? And they were all fine. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Because, like, I don't want to be the reason why some of the kids have like psychological damage down the road. But okay, let's hope they're all okay. I always ask people that I interview, right? No matter if musicians or sports people or whatever, I'm always curious, like, if they do something that they're really into, right? Because what's the goal? Is the goal like making money? I assume it's not. But like, what's the driving force, and like, what's your goal with what you're doing right now?
I think like the main goal is to make thought-provoking music that get people to improve how they're living their lives and find their meaning too. I don't know why, but I was talking to another friend about this, that it's kind of like a spiritual calling in a sense, which is kind of weird for me because I've never felt this strongly about anything I've ever done in my life, that it suddenly clicked for me that this is something I had to do in life and it's my mission in life. And it's so meaningful for me that I felt like it's something that only I can do, so that I can offer real value to the world that's uniquely me. Because I think maybe other people don't think of the way to create music like this or this kind of music, or maybe they do, but they don't have the background, like, because I studied psychology in university and all the things that I read and accumulate to have this kind of message in their music. And I thought it's something that is uniquely me that I can offer the world. So that's kind of, I just want to do it, I guess. And I've been questioning things lately because I came to realize that these days, a huge part of making music is social media. Like, you have to be on social media. You have to post on Instagram all the time. You should be on TikTok, which I'm not really yet. And I'm not super happy about that because I've cut out social media for years and I haven't touched anything other than TikTok because it's funny. I like watching stupid animal clips on TikTok. But yeah, I haven't touched Facebook or Instagram or any social media for years. And now I have to get back into it again. And I just find myself scrolling meaninglessly and wasting my time. Like through random feeds or like clickbaity things and all that. So it's not, I don't know, I'm coming to terms with that or trying to figure out how to use social media meaningfully for my music, but also not get absorbed into it.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you found the Calvin and Habs account on Instagram?
Oh, yeah. I follow them on TikTok. Have you watched their German bedtime stories?
Of course, I follow them like I've watched everything they post. They're hilarious.
Yeah, they're so good.
Actually, I'm trying to get them on the podcast here too because they're really cool.
Oh, great! Yeah. If you interview them, you all have to wear those round glasses.
That's the plan. If they say yes, that's the plan. One of the guys is from Austria, from Vienna. The other guys is from Germany. Yeah, they're hilarious, and they do commentary for wrestling as well in the German commentary. So they're based in America, in the US, and they work for WWE and do wrestling commentary in German. That doesn't mean much to you, but because I'm a nerd and I'm a child at heart, I still watch wrestling sometimes.
Yeah,
and so
I saw
I'm happy
a lot
about
of wrestling podcasts on your channel, not in general.
Because I have no one to talk to, so I have to talk to the microphone about it because none of my friends follows it. So okay, but back to you and your not social media addiction, hopefully. But it's funny that you mentioned that because yesterday in this media, Facebook Live podcast, whatever we have at university, right? So I'm the new media guy. I teach new media studies, like communication, whatever. And then my colleagues, they said they think and they hope that social media is basically the beacon of light that can help like media coverage become independent and like that people can see the real truth of like news and so on social media. And the guy who teaches social media, me, I was like, I don't think so. I think social media sucks right now because of like what you mentioned, the algorithm, and there's only like clickbait on there because we all figure out how it works and you just try to grab the attention and so on. So I understand that you said you wanted a break from social media and I hope you succeed in using it, but then not getting sucked into it. But then if you just use it for your music, you're one of them. You're one of them who uses it just to suck the people in.
Yeah, true. I'm curious, have you been on WT Social? There's a social media by Wikipedia creators or something, and also ThinkSpot, the one by Peterson. What do you think of those?
Yeah, it's like there are a few more alternative ones, but the WT Social is, didn't you have to register like in the beginning, or like you have to say like I want an invite or whatever? I think like back then. Anyway, so it took a while until I was on there. What I thought was the idea is nice, of course. Like the underlying idea of social media is nice anyway. So like back then forums and stuff like this, where people, Tumblr, I mean, you know it best. So people just really they are curious and want to discuss things. That's perfect. And I think some of those new social media platforms, they start like this. But what I also experienced is that there are lots of people that would not like Jordan Peterson on there. Like they're trying to tell you what you can say, what you can't say, and so on. So that was my first impression. But to be honest, I haven't spent too much time on it. So maybe you have like a different or a better experience there.
I haven't been on it a lot either, but lately I went back to ThinkSpot because I thought if I have to do social media for my music, then maybe go to one that has more interesting discussions potentially. And I find that a lot of people seems much more willing to write thoughtful discussions. Like they would write long paragraphs of analysis on a post rather than just like a few, I don't know, negative comments at the poster, like on YouTube, saying you suck or things like that. Yeah, so that it's less encouraged there right
Yeah.
now, at least.
So it's like the forums back in the 90s. People
Yeah.
are nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have to admit, like when I started the podcast again here, I tried to use like my podcast profile, set it up like on all the socials, and try to, like what you learn, like be active, engage with people, comment, and so on. But I cannot count how many times I got insulted just for commenting like something totally normal, like I disagree with whatever, and I'm like, like just insults over insults. So it's really discouraging to use social media for like thoughtful conversations. So maybe you're right. There's a spot for this, and if there's a spot for this, and if ThinkSpot is the spot, then maybe that's is it moderated?
I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, if it works.
Although people can form their groups like on Facebook, and I think those ones are moderated. But if you post in a public forum, then it's not.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, nice. Let's hope that works out. Okay, so you're using ThinkSpot to write analytical comments about something to get people to check out your music?
Kinda. So I've been, I think, I don't know, because another theory is also that people who might like my music or appreciate the way that I write music more is people who like to think and discuss things, or more of a philosopher type than the go dance at a nightclub type. Although I've done both. And so I think that maybe if I write interesting comments, and they might check out my profile, because in my social media name, I would say Tamlin, which is my artist name, and dash thought provoking music. Yeah, so
okay.
I don't know if that'll work or not. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, we check back in with you then in a year when you're super famous, and amongst that audience at least.
Maybe I'll get cancelled for using children in my video inappropriately. Although my third song is about the cancel culture, so I have a comeback.
That should be perfect on the Jordan Peterson platform, though. The cancel culture thing. Did you experience cancel culture already somehow?
With me? No.
Yeah. No, okay.
No, I think my fan base, which half of them are my friends, are still positive and encouraging.
Okay. I hope family and friends are okay. Fair enough. Okay, I just thought maybe while you were active on some platform, someone tried to say, "Hey, you shouldn't be saying this." But nice that it's not the case. So not everybody is experiencing those bad things, which is nice. I'm trying again to find another smooth segue, because back then when we discussed doing this, you said you have like 2 talking points. One is your music, of course. And now I'm trying to find a segue to the second one.
Yeah, one of the topics I want to talk about, well, which I mentioned to you, is Afghanistan, or what's happening there. Yeah, sorry, there's like a wasp that landed on my laptop. Okay, it's like right on your face. Okay, I'm just gonna. It left. Back to the topic, because one part of my first song, I was inspired, or at the time I was writing it, I was thinking about religious violence as an inspiration and as a discussion point to make people think about like extreme dogmatism, or how people use religious to justify violence against other humans, whether it's, well, any religion or even a cult, I suppose. And at the time I was writing, I don't think I was inspired by a specific incident, although it was still happening, like recently Afghanistan, and before that was the Palestinians and Israel, although there's a lot of other political issues, but it's also religious inspired, and it's still happening today. And it's crazy to think that war, like literal war, killing someone, is still happening in certain parts of the world where it's not really imaginable what it would be like for me or for us, I suppose. Yeah, so it's one of the things I want listeners to think about, although I guess it can't ever get to Taliban because they ban music. But interestingly, I was thinking about it a lot, that all religions have some kind of music. Like even the Taliban Islam, when they do their praying, it sounds musical. Yeah, and music has that kind of influence on you that makes it feel more like a religious, a spiritual experience, or something bigger than themselves. And any kind of melody, even like praying in a Buddhist monks chanting or the Islamic chanting, kind of has that music in it. So it was strange that they ban music, although I guess they don't think on that level.
They probably thought about the lyrics, and that there's like no controversial lyrics, or that there are no, I know, women singing, or I don't know what something along those lines, I would assume.
Because I think they thought of music as purely entertainment, or like mindless entertainment, maybe, if you were to give them, well, points for being reasonable. Well, not really, but I mean, if they could think of music as just mindless entertainment, but there's music that is used for other things throughout history, like religious kind of music or cultural music to express certain rituals or things like that. It's not just relaxation.
Yeah. True, yeah. And it's actually, I mean, it's not funny, but it's like good timing right now, because we just had like the anniversary of 9/11. Is the anniversary the right term? I'm not sure. Like the 20 years since 9/11 happened, I mean, which basically was then triggered the invasion of Afghanistan back then. And yeah, since you brought it up, like thinking about how like people are dying and so on. For me, like actually the 9/11 was the first time where I grew up like emotionally, like when you saw it and you're like, people do this to each other? Like really? Like it's not just history, it's actually happening, and it's happening now up until now, like you said, with like Palestine, Israel, and now then maybe Afghanistan again and so on. So yeah, I think that's a good point that like people should sometimes think about it. Yesterday, like one of the German news outlets I follow, they posted like, hey guys, it's like a news outlet for younger audience. And they're like, hey, so it's 9/11. What do you remember? And most people, younger audience, commented like, yeah, terrible, but I have no feelings towards that because I wasn't old enough to understand it. And it's like, wow, you have no feelings towards 9/11? What the hell? So sometimes maybe sitting back and just thinking about what actually happened, maybe even right now then in Afghanistan again, I think should be something that we do more often. But thanks to how the media works, the media doesn't want us to sit back and think about stuff, because if you sit back and think about stuff, then you don't click and you don't generate value, money for them. So that's, I think, one of the main issues out there. But
I saw your podcast about really clickbaity titles. I mean, if it works, it's great, right? But I mean, I also think about whether it translates into any action. Like people read a clickbaity content, and do they donate to charity that's actually helping or anything, or is it just another scrolling kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. And by the way, that's also interesting, because you said like, if you want to give the Taliban something for being reasonable, I think what they're doing well, and I mean, I use this word like loosely right now, doing well, but like they learned from back then, right? Like back then, before 96 or I don't know when it was, like they were just like banning everything and killing everybody. And now they're like, hey, we want to establish some working relations with you guys, with like Germany, with like different countries, with Thailand, whatever. They're using social media somewhat. Like I think their spokes guy is on Twitter, I believe.
Yeah.
Which led to huge outrage, of course, because he's on Twitter, Donald Trump is banned, and so on. But so they learned also that they have to use the media, which is interesting and also a little bit scary.
Yeah, like they know how to manipulate the media and also cancel or hide certain things from their own population, which is, it's scary, as you said. And someone who controls the media can influence everyone in the country.
Exactly. That's why media literacy is so important. That was like our connection to yesterday's podcast. Yeah. The thing is also, like you said, if someone controls the media, like, because then eventually the population, they don't know that the media is like controlled, biased, and so on, and they just believe whatever they see, right? So then, I mean, that's basically like what's gonna happen and what happens in other countries already. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see. I listened to, that's what I want to mention. I listened to one podcast called Flagrant 2, like named after flagrant fouls in basketball, like a very hard foul. So they're like comedians. Andrew Schultz is the guy who runs it. And usually it's a comedic podcast, but they said, okay, because Taliban happening right now. So they actually had a guest out of Kabul calling in to the podcast, like a journalist in Kabul. And they're like, hey man, we hear so many things. Like, tell us, you're in Kabul right now. Like, how's it going? And he was explaining like, oh, it's everything quite normal. I'm going out, I'm buying stuff. Like, yeah, there are guys with like guns everywhere, but they're not doing anything. And so I'm thinking, all right, I know which side you're on. So they're using even like this podcast medium already to their advantage, which is, again, scary, impressive, like crazy.
Right. So before the podcast, the interviewers didn't know much about that guy, or?
I think they found, I'm not sure how they are connected with him. Like he used to, I just know that like they introduced him and he's used to study in the US, but then he went back to Afghanistan. But how they knew each other, I'm not sure, to be honest. But it was just interesting to hear him say like how things aren't that bad right now, which, I mean, but then again, who you going to believe, right? That guy and who might be in like cahoots with the Taliban, or do you believe CNN who benefits from us clicking on it and being in panic? Difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really see openly. Or maybe I guess some journalists could have a hidden camera somewhere that would tell you what's really going on, but we haven't really seen that. Right.
Probably very dangerous to do that. Like if you would try that as a journalist, it would probably be very dangerous for you and your family, I assume. Okay, now we gone quite dark, like just like your music.
Yeah, but I guess sometimes it's important to think about dark topics or dark parts of the history so that we don't repeat that. I guess to segue, there's certain parts of the world that doesn't teach about past wars or what happened in World War II or things like that, to, I guess, not get people to think about it, or maybe to rewrite history as a winner, or to not offend children or scare them, like censorship in a kind of overly protective way. So yeah, it exists even in school system, that the lessons that are taught are controlled like the media.
Stop talking about Thailand here.
I'm not talking about Thailand, actually. I was thinking about the US, because I listened to someone recently saying that they know a school that doesn't teach about the Nazi in that school.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just that lesson is that World War II was glossed over and never really discussed.
You would think like German schools would try this, but in German schools, that's all you hear about in history classes. Like for 5 years straight, you just hear how bad you are, how bad your people are, and that you like just the bad things that happen. Because I mean, of course you should know it, right? So that's crazy that even the US, who are the winners, that even they would ignore that and like, didn't happen. Huh.
Yeah.
Like no faith in education anymore.
I think in the US it's probably more like, oh, we shouldn't teach children scary things. Probably with what's going on there now culturally.
Are you hating now on your former host country where you spent so much time during the pandemic?
I appreciate the free vaccines.
Oh God, shall we? No, we don't talk about vaccines, are we? Any side effects from your vaccination at all?
No, just sore arm where the needle went in, and that's it.
That's the microchip, right?
Microchip you.
New world order and so on. Did you? Okay, now I have to ask, but let's just keep this short. But I just want to know, like, while you were there, because like all the conspiracy theories that are coming out in regards to the vaccine and so on, they seem to come out of America, out of the US. Have you been exposed to any more conspiracies while you were there?
Not really, but also like we only met our group of friends, which are pretty liberal.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't really like go on the street and talk to random people about what they thought, so I don't really know the other side.
Maybe you should go on the street and let people listen to your music, though, like guerrilla marketing, like randomly. Hey, listen to this.
I wonder if that works. If I just like go in the middle of a busy market or something and just start like.
And then you see their faces turning like pale, like getting like sad and depressed. They're like, it works. It works. Okay, if you ever do this, I want some credits, but I don't think you can do this in Thailand, though. Unfortunately,
I'll tell everyone that it's your idea.
They're all complaining with me. Nice, cool. But now that you're back in Thailand, so I think you have to do remote marketing. I assume you can do this, unfortunately. But maybe if your friends also go abroad, you just make them do it. I think it would be hilarious. Okay, maybe that's just me. Let's move on from my terrible marketing ideas, and we are close to wrapping things up because it's been an hour already.
Oh, wow. I have a question I wanted to ask since I watched your podcast about like the clickbaity title of Afghanistan news. I wonder if you looked into any research paper. Because now I was just thinking if news are all like that now, are research paper titles also super clickbaity now? Like the results of this research will change you forever.
So I haven't researched research papers, but since I'm working on a research in this regard, so I checked papers that have done something in this regard, and I haven't noticed actively, but now that you say it, the research paper titles definitely become more like, if I can say it in academics, like more catchy. Like when I wrote my master thesis back then, like decades ago, like an average research paper title would be like super long, right?
Yeah, like
very specific.
You're taught to write as boring as possible. Boringly descriptive.
Right, exactly. And now I think it's the average research title, at least in the area that I'm in, like media research, I think they are getting like more catchy, if I can say that. But while I wanted to hate on it, now that you said it, if I think about how boring most research papers are, because they're research papers, but also how boring like conferences are, academic conferences are the worst. It's so boring. So maybe it's actually a good thing that they're becoming more clickbaity, that they're trying to think about what's interesting to look at. But if it's then only for the keywords, of course, it's also not good. Yeah. But yes, interesting. By the way, in this regard, my colleague, she prepared for our podcast yesterday where we talked about literacy. And she said she researched for a few hours. She analyzed headlines on like different newspapers about Afghanistan and so on. And what she found was that she's from China, so she focused on Chinese news media and then American news media. She said in Chinese news media, most articles are more about like the economic impact and things like this in regards to Afghanistan, because China is so close to Afghanistan. They don't want any trouble there, so they're not highlighting any big issues there because they wanted to calm down, to stay calm, to keep doing business and so on. While most American-based newspapers, they went for the emotional thing like women's rights and children's abuse and things like this. So she said there was a big like difference in like how global media portrays it. So just to also add this to, because it just fits what we discussed right now. Very interesting.
Right. But are there also typically really clickbaity headlines in China?
She said depends on the outlet, but there also are, yes. I forgot the name she mentioned, like one or two outlets. I can let you know privately. I have to check because she just mentioned it like verbally, so I couldn't really get it, the Chinese name. But I can check this again. Yeah. So there are two, but she said like topic wise, it's all rather similar though.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, again, the media, terrible yet necessary and hopefully beneficial for what you're doing though.
Hopefully in
so
a useful way that's not mindless entertainment, hopefully.
Hey, maybe you're like on the forefront now of changing things. Oh God, I was about to wrap it up, but now that I said it, I have to ask you. I have to ask you one thing. We're in Thailand, right? One of us is Thai, and the other has been living here forever. Have you seen the most anticipated music video launch in history?
The Lisa one?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
What?
My mom sent it to me. As soon as I landed, she was like, "Did you watch Lisa yet?" I'm like, I just landed.
Your mom is the target audience. Nice. Yeah, everybody loves her here, right? From a professional musician's point of view that doesn't do mindless entertainment, what do we think about it?
I mean, I think she's a really skilled dancer, but I don't really like that type of songs. But I do think she's actually good at dancing, like way better than a lot of K-pop dancers, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I can say.
About the music.
The music itself, I find that it's very weird that half the song is her saying her own name.
Yes.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it's so weird.
Like, there have been others like Jason Derulo or Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. I mean, it can sound cool. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I couldn't watch it until the end of the video. I hated it that much, and I don't want to hate on Blackpink and Lisa and so on because all power to them, because they know how to use the media, right? I mean, they're doing everything right. I found it funny that I asked you about like, how do you like the music? And you're like, she's a good dancer. Nice.
But also, I think I watched to the end, but I was intrigued throughout the whole video because I think the Korean music video, they master attention catching by changing the set and the costume like 20 times in one video. So it's like, oh, new set. Oh, like you stay watching to the end because you keep seeing so many changes. Yeah,
right.
Well, in that case, it didn't work for you.
No, because I was okay. Now all my students gonna try to cancel me if anyone listens to this down the road. But what I found annoying was that it was so obvious to me that they try to use like all the styles that are successful right now in pop music, and they just mash it all together. Like, I mean, obviously the K-pop stuff, but then also like this short rap part that's kind of like Cardi B style and like the high voice, like just rapping very fast. I'm like, I see what you're doing and I'm not impressed. And that was just like, that's why I hated it. Not necessarily just because it sounded terrible, but like the beat isn't what caught my attention, but then like seeing like how they mix all those things together, I'm like, I know what you're doing. It's not working. Stop it.
Yeah, but I think they master popularity or like virality, which I don't know. I'm about to segue again. I don't know if we should do another podcast. Or maybe you can cut this into 3 different podcasts. But
Sure, yeah.
okay, let me segue for a bit. Is that I kept seeing more and more AI that write music now.
Yeah.
And AI are really good at analyzing what's popular and what's catchy. And I think her kind of music is what an AI can easily make that will be viral. So I think in the future, maybe that type of pop stars would be replaced by AI and AI generated star idol.
Yeah. I think that's going to happen sooner than later, to be honest. Like, I mean, there are AI generated influencers already, like in China, I believe. So I don't see this being too far off, to be honest. Funny that you say that, because yesterday another research project of mine is like using AI. So I checked out like AI content writers, basically. So the tools that write content for you, you just tell them the keyword, maybe like a few bullet points, and then they write like a 5,000 words article for you. I'm checking out right now like how this ranks in search engines and how this triggers like actual user response, or if it triggers user response, and so on. And I tried it yesterday. I started yesterday with like articles that usually trigger lots of responses. And the articles that the AI wrote, and I tested 3 different AI tools, it was unfortunately quite impressive. I had one article on feminism, because I'm like, okay, feminism triggers, like Jordan Peterson feminism, that triggers definitely. So I'm trying this. I only typed in the hashtag, the tag feminism. It came out with like the history, important, I don't know, historical events for feminists, quotes about feminist figures. Like, yeah, don't tell my students.
I'm
like 20 bucks a month.
curious though, like, did you run it through a plagiarism checker? Because I'm curious if it copy paste paragraphs from something else.
So yeah, I tried. I used like the plagiarism tool that we have at uni. So the free version, as you could expect, the free version was like triggering the plagiarism tool. So it just apparently just rearranges like words and sentences and so on, and not in a great way, because the plagiarism checker still detected it. There's one premium tool that didn't trigger the checker, so I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna keep trying for a while, because the research might take a while to see the ranking in search results and so on. But yeah, the premium tool that makes you pay right up front, that didn't trigger, and I'm curious like how they do that. And that's scary. Like,
yeah.
And it's not that expensive. Like, it's like, I don't know, $19 per month or something.
Oh, wow. So you can type in any topic and then it would write.
So I haven't tried like that many yet, but I didn't pick one from a list. I just typed in the topic that I thought of. Like, they have some lists of like sustainable, eco-friendly, whatever, but I didn't try it. I just typed in like the feminism part. And then some sports stuff too, just to check, but sports is easy. But yeah, no, it didn't trigger the plagiarism checker.
Wow.
Which is interesting.
Now I want to use it for my company. We can generate more blog content.
Hey, they use everything. Like, they have like, you can check what you want, like blog post or landing page or a product description, a newsletter, use the IDA model, use different kinds of marketing models, and then they write it in that structure. It's with call to action and everything. Wow. It's insane.
I think you should get a sponsorship for your podcast.
Go to an AI podcast. I wanted to say that it's scary, but it sounded like an ad right now, right?
Yeah,
so
sponsored by the thing that will replace my job.
Exactly, that makes all students get A's. Yeah. But it was just like I had to mention after you mentioned AI. So yeah, so that's But it's even more crazy that it works for music, because I mean, written content, okay, but music still needs to make sense on different levels. That's crazy.
Yeah, because if the most popular music video in the last week has lyrics that's half the song is just her name, then it's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, but then you can also see, okay, this song was written by an AI. Maybe this happened to Lisa's song. Yeah, but they had AI like a few years ago write books, right? What was it, Game of Thrones or something that they finished? It wasn't great, I believe. Like back when they had like the TV show Game of Thrones and the books weren't finished, they had like AI like as an experiment finish it, and it sounded okayish but not great. But yeah, so obviously came leaps and bounds, but it probably cannot replace thought-provoking music.
Hopefully not anytime soon.
So before we wrap things up again, since we're down that road, right? I mean, since you took us down that road, so I'm shifting blame to you. Because you're like, I mean, not a nerd, but you're open to like nerdiness, right?
I mean, I would call myself a nerd.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I just didn't want to call your names.
I don't generally look like the stereotypical one. Although what's stereotypical these days?
Exactly. Let's not stereotype, because then this leads us to being cancelled. But what I wanted to ask you is, how open are you to those things? Are you like, hey, AI for music? Nah, what the hell? That's my area of expertise. I don't want AI in there. Or just like variables and tracking and your phone listening to you and whatnot. Like, how do you feel about all those things?
I think I am curious to see. Although I think these days, like I mentioned, it would be great for the viral kind of pop. I don't know about other songs. Although I've seen an AI that learned all of the Bach music and wrote something that sounds like it could be written by Bach. So
okay,
maybe it's more and more impressive. But like even currently, when I produce music, I use some AI. It's not true AI, of course, but like machine learning that helps. Because I don't know if you know about mixing, the process of mixing. So you produce, like you compose and play all the instruments, then you mix, which is when you turn up and down the volumes of different tracks, like the main vocal, the harmonies, all the instrumentals, and then you kind of tweak the frequencies so they don't sit on top of each other. Like if you want the lead vocal to stand out, then you have to turn down the exact same frequency as of the lead vocal in other tracks. And now there's like an AI tool that does that automatically, which when I did music years ago, when you interviewed me, that didn't exist. So I was doing that manually and it was so much work and it still sounded bad. And now I just ran it through this plugin and it did everything. It sounds great. So I love that.
Okay, follow-up question before we wrap it up. Because I watched this Netflix documentary on like pop music. Did you watch that?
Probably not.
Okay, so that was kind of cool. So I always watch it like when I was working out at home. Like it's like 45 minutes each or so, and they have like one topic per episode. Like for example, one episode is Britpop, the emergence of Britpop, and then another episode is the emergence of punk rock, and one was autotune. And yesterday in the car when I was driving back, I just listened to JC DOA, Death of Autotune, and I was just curious now that you mentioned like AI and so on. Like you said like it's cool that it's so easy, but like all the musicians that back then they were super mad at autotune and like how was it T.I., right? T.I. used autotune like to a crazy extent and became super famous for autotune, and all his friends and contemporaries, they hated on him. Like he said in an interview, Usher told him he killed pop music, and they used to be friends. So now I just wonder, like you embracing this, but do you see how others like might say, hey, wait, it's much better if you do it like by hand because it shows your skills? Or what are your thoughts on this?
I think the only people who hates on auto-tune is they haven't produced music.
Okay.
Because even I use it to some extent.
No,
but I think everybody does that produce music. Or you have to clean up the vocal, right? Like at least you clean up your saliva, mouth smacking noises. You clean up your S's because otherwise it's going to sound like constantly. So the tools that clean those up, and the tools that like you can drag up and down your tone. Mm-hmm. So if you sing something a little off or something like that, then you can change it. But like there are people who do it to, some people would do it stylistically that it sounds exactly like auto-tuning, that is a style, or people that do it a little bit so it still sound very realistic and you don't adjust things a lot, but only a certain off notes. So I do that. Like I think it saves a lot of time because you can either sing something 20 times so you get exactly the right tune for the whole sentence, or you just sing it like twice and you think, oh, everything's good except this one note, so I'm just going to move this one note later.
Okay, that makes sense. You don't need to sound like Cher at the end, right? So that makes sense. Okay, just as an FYI, I don't see you right now because it tells me your video has been disabled due to internet quality issues, but it's still recording your video, so it should be fine.
I still see myself.
Okay, yeah, I see myself too. So it's recording on your computer anyways, and then it's going to upload to the platform, so no problem.
I think it's kicking us off. We've been talking too long.
Maybe. Okay. I have two more questions now that we talked about like this. Oh, I can see you again. I have two more questions. Actually, no, one question, and then the last one is like I'm just gonna ask you for your final last words as always, because that's the one thing I kept from way back then. But the one thing I wanted to know musical wise, because right now a big debate apparently in the US, CLB or Donda. Which team are we on?
I don't actually know. Am I kicked off the platform now?
Yeah, now you're not cool.
I'm not Gen Z, unfortunately.
Me neither, but it's Drake versus Kanye. So that's the debate apparently right now. Who's better, because they both released albums at a similar time.
Oh yeah, that's why I've been hearing Kanye a lot recently.
Do you like this kind of music?
I used to like Kanye, some of his music when I was in university. There was this album that was super popular. I don't remember the name anymore. But
no worries.
Yeah, some of it is interesting, although I don't listen to rap much.
Okay.
So yeah. In
I don't even need to ask you about Drake. Okay, no problem.
I only know he's Canadian and very nice. So
just because it's Canadian. Okay, stereotyping 101 now. Okay, let's not stereotype any further. Let's wrap things up unless you have another segue. Do you have another segue?
Not right now.
Okay, then let's not segue.
I guess one question is that I was kind of surprised that you don't have an intro, because all the podcasts or the YouTube channel kind of have an intro like, hi everybody, my name is Sasha Funk, welcome to the Funk It podcast. And you have that intro line,
Yeah, I don't like it. I feel awkward doing this.
So you just start.
You know me personally. I'm awkward with people. I don't want. It's like, hey everyone.
Yeah, at least I try on my channel to be like the humans.
Yeah, it's so hard though. It's really hard to be like humans. I mean, one of the main reasons why I do podcasts now is because I want to improve, because I know I'm awkward doing those things, and that's the main reason why I do it. Because, way back when we first met, right, and we went to like those meetup events on those like entrepreneurships, whatever, meetups and stuff. I mean, we both had like a similar outlook in regards, like we both hate it. We hate networking, but we need to do it. So because only if you do it, you get better at it. And that's what like public speaking and podcasting is for me. That's also like when I go to conferences, I'm like, I hate it. I don't want to talk to people, but that's why I do it. So, I mean, but maybe I should copy you and should be like hey, welcome to, oh, by the way, wrapping things up. But by the way, because you mentioned it now, like, so I'm relaunching my personal website right now. So I'm going to hopefully this coming week. And there's like, I used like layout that I like, and then I have like space for a tagline. And I'm like, what's my tagline? Funk it up. Do it with and it feels so awkward, you know, but I need something, but it feels so awkward. So I'm going to try and copy you in regards to how to be more human.
Do you have a catchphrase?
Not yet, just to copy.
My tagline for my psychology website is how to human.
That's awesome. Okay, link to how to human then below in the description, of course. Everyone who listens to, or watches or listens to this podcast probably enjoys that because they're also not human.
Now they're wondering if we're AI.
Yeah, right. You can see I'm not AI because my shirt is changing colors. I'm sweating because I turned off the AC because the AC is too noisy in my old building.
Oh, I didn't notice that until you said it, and now everyone does.
Okay. Damn it. Look away. I'm gonna add a filter later. No one's gonna see it anymore. I'm gonna add a filter with flowers. Okay, but now before we segue to something else, like wrapping things up, and since you're like a fan of taglines and intros and outros, I'm just gonna throw the ball into your court. Final last words. Make it good ones. That's the one that's gonna be on the IG post. The quote.
Oh no.
Final last words.
Oh no. I don't know, man. I was gonna say, let's funk it at fuck it. Because now I'm in fuck it, like how the foreigners like to say it. So we can
You're right,
funk it at fuck it.
And we're censored now. Now getting demonetized and so on.
Funk it podcast where we try to be human.
Fantastic. All right, I'm gonna obviously link to all your things in case people are wondering where they can find you. So it's all like all your social media is now Tamlin, right?
Yeah, Tamlin songs.
Okay. Tamlin songs. Okay, we'll link to all of those platforms, which will be IG and
Facebook-ish. I'm not really on it. I'm on IG a lot.
Okay, so we will.
Spotify, YouTube,
IG and Spotify.
Apple Music, Shazam. You can Shazam my music too.
Okay, that's kind of cool that that people can find you on Shazam when they don't know the song, but they're like, "Hey, that's cool."
What's that song that I listened to and kind of made me sad?
Can I sing your song to Google and it will find it?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
You try this for your TikTok. There you go. Welcome. See, I'm giving you your idea.
Okay.
Sing my song. Awesome. I think we just cut it off here right now. Thanks for making the time. Thanks for having fast internet. That was nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Okay, next time we do it hopefully in person.
Sure.
Less awkward then.
Inviting me to this and extending it for a long time and letting me segue multiple times.
Anytime. We should do this like every 6 years or so.